What's up, everybody? I'm Harry. This is my friend Samek. This is Attunement Podcast number 15. And I have sad news for you all, which is Samek's cat unexpectedly passed away a few days ago. And so my guy Samek is going to be low energy today. He's going through it. But also, I want to say it's been quite beautiful to be with him as he goes through it, seeing his love and his grief for his cat. So I'm guessing some of that will come up today. And then the experiment for today is speaking as if we have no names. I don't really want to explain that. It's really a vibe. I think you'll pick up the vibe. Speaking as if we have no names. And anything else before we get into it, Samek?
No, I might be burping.
And do you want to ask me first, or do you want me to ask you first?
I can ask you first. What's been in Harry's world? What have you been learning for the past week?
A lot has happened, but learning-wise, it really is an extension. Again, yesterday I listened to our podcast last week, and I was like, oh my God, these guys are so locked in. Like, I wish I remembered everything we said. It was an extension of the maybes thing, but now I see it as my wants change. I'm now sensitive enough to my wants that it's essentially just really painful to not follow or listen to them. And I don't control my wants. So there's like a deep helplessness in being this attuned to my wants, because it's like my wants are in a way driving me. Like I'm being pushed in a stroller by my wants, but also being pushed in a stroller rocks. Like if you trust your parents who are pushing you in a stroller, like, man, that must be awesome. That must feel so safe. And so like I trust my wants. So there's this helpless to it, but it also rocks. And it's part of me, so it's super aligned. So it also rocks in that way. And we talked about this a little bit last time, but I just am experiencing more clearly how there's the helplessness, and I resist feeling it. And then I feel it. And then when I feel it, I can see more clearly what I can control and what I can't control. Can see more clearly what I can't control, which reveals what I can control. And this time around, it's like, oh, I'm feeling helpless. I need to like do a helplessness release. I need to like shake. I need to do a trauma release exercise. And now I'm like, oh, I can feel my helplessness doing anything. I can feel my helplessness more right now. And so it's become, when I resist the helplessness, my brain goes, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And when I feel the helplessness, I go, oh, I wonder what I'm going to do. But it's like, the what I'm going to do is like my dad of the wants pushing me in the stroller. So it's like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I see that something's going to happen. And this is just going to happen. But like my job is to feel the helplessness. The doing just happens. The master does nothing, yet nothing is left undone. Thank you, Taoism. That's what I've been learning.
Beautiful. Yeah, there's a flavor of that in my experience as well. I had gratitude set up with a friend, and I didn't want to. It's not me, but like my wants didn't want the gratitude, but like my head wanted to do gratitude for this person because I think they're awesome, and there's probably like a little bit of pedestalization of them. So it's like, oh, I want to be friends with this person. Oh, I get to do gratitude with them for 8 weeks. That's awesome. But the wants were like, no. And I couldn't control that. So there was I'm in master class this time around, and the homework for this week is upright apologies. So I did like a very simple upright apology, like extremely simple. And from my head's perspective, it kind of means nothing, which was me saying, I'm sorry for playing the savior. Oh, and in reality, I'm afraid to speak the truth. It was like that simple. And the moment I said it after doing gratitude with this session, my whole body went into like terror and helplessness for solid 20, 30 minutes. And the moment I felt through it, I texted them, I don't want to do gratitude with you anymore. And it felt like this massive relief hit my system. And yeah, it was something that wanted to happen through me. It was like a no that was clearly there, but something was keeping it stuck, and the upright apology cleared that out. And then the helplessness and the fear flowed. And then it just I did the thing without thinking too much about it, and it felt really good. And then my head wasn't always like, oh, I have to do something for this person that I don't want to do. Obligation. That kind of all just washed away, and my head became a lot more quiet.
Our connection's pretty bad. We're cutting. Cut.
Is it bad? On my end, it looks fine.
Yeah,
I think it's
that's really interesting. Yeah, I also think it's on my end. I'm gonna try to hotspot.
Okay, we can just pause right there and cut.
Yeah,
back.
yeah, agreed. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, my Wi-Fi's been kind of bad up here. Damn. Testing.
Good on my end. Video quality is slightly worse for you.
That fixed it for me. I'm gonna do a Wi-Fi speed test. I was kind of distracted because my Wi-Fi speed test isn't working. Okay. I was kind of distracted because I was like, the Wi-Fi shit. So you were saying like, but it was just the last part. The last part is you were saying like, after saying no more gratitude sessions, there's a bunch of relief and like emptiness in your head, or what? Yeah. What's the last piece?
Yeah, it was like there was a bunch of relief and like less thinking, less trying to figure something out, and it just flowed. You can say
Yeah. Okay. I can do this. I'm gonna do this so you can see it. Cut, and then I'm gonna begin. All right, we're back, everyone. And on that, the thing I noticed this morning is that feeling the helplessness, there's like way more flow. And bringing the empowerment piece back in. I don't have a good analogy for the empowerment, but there's something that feels really empowered about feeling the helplessness, and trusting my wants. I guess it's like there's no way I'd rather live. But the baby in the stroller analogy, I can't find a way to fit the empowerment in there. But there's just like a sense of flow and empowerment, but also feeling the helplessness at the same time. And it's this really strange mix. And I also want to connect to what you said, like a big part of the helplessness for me of my wants changing is saying goodbye to people with no good reason. Like, what's the reason? It's like, oh, because my wants said so.
Yeah, I remember when I planned to come to Earth Dance and to say, like, I really wanted to. There was like this like want to come to Earth Dance to hang out with you. And then halfway through reunion it changed. And then I was freaking out. Like my head was freaking out trying to figure it out. And it was so clear. And then there's like this piece of like every day I didn't say no, I felt more obligated to you and
Yeah.
getting mad at you. And then I had to cry. I think I cried the night before the podcast we did on projections, like the reunion podcast. And then at the beginning of the call, I was like, "Hey, I want to fight Harry," and Harry's like, "Okay," and I was like, "I don't want to come to Earth Dance," and then he was like, "Okay." And there was no reason. It just like I don't want to do it, and then he was like, "Okay," and then it all ended. It felt really good, but I felt so helpless against that no, because that no was so strong in my system, and the no was new, and the no was it was not a me saying no. It was like a higher wisdom. It was like a no flowing.
Yeah, like the higher wisdom piece, because there's like a lack of control in it, which normally I've experienced as like a lower wisdom or whatever, a lower part of myself. It's like, oh, I like you, but like it's kind of like the opposite of ick. Like an ick is like, oh, I like you, but like the way you picked up that ping pong ball was like really unattractive, and like I just can't be around you anymore. But this is like, oh, I really like you, and like God is telling me to not do this thing with you, and I'm not going to. And I think it's about the same feeling the way you're describing it, but the one that gets me, so like I think if I was in your position there, that wouldn't get me as bad, I think. But for me, the one that gets me is like because I'm swapping view conversations, peer counseling, peer therapy with these people. And if I don't swap with them, like I'm just not going to interact with them. Like that is the basis of us interacting, which means now on the basis of like my higher wisdom or intuition, I'm just like not going to interact with these people for an indefinite amount of time. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Like that makes me feel it. It's like, what? Like, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. How does helplessness feel in your system? Because it has been changed. It's changed every month since I started feeling it like clearly, which is a year ago. And before it was painful, then it became a grasping, then it became this like screaming, then it became this softness, then it became this innocence, then it became almost like an emptiness. So that's been like my experience of helplessness over the last year. I'm curious how it's changed for you.
I had a helplessness thing like a year and a half ago, but I feel like my helplessness journey is basically starting as of like 3 weeks ago. Um, and so, I mean, right? Joe Hudson says the cayenne pepper of fear. I'm like, internal massage definitely resonates. Like I was getting fascia massages. Oh, it is kind of like this. So I was getting fascia massages, and there's this crazy sensation, which every single time I got it, so like 3 different sessions, like 5 hours total. I'm like, are you digging your nails in my skin? And she's like, no. I'm like, does how is the inside of my body feeling like that? Like literally like that. And the image I have is like if you put 2 sticky sides of tape together and then you like sheared them across each other. Um, and just like this like, ugh. Like, you know, I guess it's just like the layers of fascia, or like the fascia next to my muscle or whatever, just like it was stuck and now it's like sliding unstuck. But it feels like that. And so there's a way the helplessness kind of feels like that in a more like volumetric way, especially on like my ribs, especially on like the sides of my body and my legs and my gut, but just like in my like innards, and it's just like, but it's not like nails on a chalkboard. It's still a massage, but it's this weird kind of fascia sliding massage that's like, ugh. Yeah.
Cool.
So that's mainly how it feels. For me, the pleasure in it is like being dominated by my wants. It's just like it's just like there's no like it kind of it's like this thing's gonna dominate me and there's nothing I can do about it. Like there's no way. And like resisting helplessness feels so bad. Like resisted anger like sucks, but it's like whatever. Resisted helplessness is absolute garbage. Um, that is more like nails on a chalkboard. It's more like I literally need to get the fuck out of here. Um,
Yeah, I relate to
and
that.
when I feel it more, yeah, there's kind of like a presence to it. Yeah, I would really just say the fascia massage thing. It's just like the difference between resisting and not resisting a fascia massage. Yeah. Anything else for you there? Sweet. What have you been learning this week, sir?
Sorrow and grief. There's a beautiful book called The Wild Edge of Sorrow by Francis Willer. And it has like poems in every other chapter and say a description of sorrow and your relationship to sorrow and how it changes over time. And like the etymology of like different words. And the word for grief comes from the Latin word gravis, which means heavy. And it also gets translated to grave, gravity, gravitas. And there's an experience of just heaviness in existence right now. But there's also like being with that where the heaviness like very clearly just puts me in myself.
Mm.
And there's no one else I can be in with the heaviness there. And there's an experience of sorrow being like the in-between stage between grief, like before I go into grief. So there's like a heartache of sorrow, a melancholy to my experience, and surprisingly still a lot of spaciousness and peace if I'm not resisting those things. But I don't know, I spent most of Saturday, Sunday, and Monday and Tuesday crying. So uh, uh, so there's that, but there's also like a uh, like a lack of resistance of that allows it to flow a lot better. And my experience of sorrow and grief has been like it starts with a numbness and a heartache with the like the gravitas of it all, and it breaks and it breaks into anger, or usually it breaks and it like goes into my head. So there's like this tension in my head, which is usually resisted anger. So then I like start yelling, or it breaks into tears, or it breaks into disgust, or it breaks into grief, crying. But there's been a felt experience of it breaking, like the shattering, like a heart shattering. like over and over again for the past 4 days, and it's very vivid, like very clear in my system. Like right before this podcast started, I was like, oh, something just cracked, and I just started like burping a lot. And it was a lot of disgust, and it's still pretty active. So there's been that experience, and also a level of presence and gratitude for the moment that has never, not never, but it's never really been there. Where like death feels intimately closer. It's like in the book it says memory comes from the word to, memory comes from like to remember, to be mindful of the moment, because every time you remember something that already passed, that's already dead. And in the act of remembering, it is an act of grieving, because grieving is to witness what has passed. And that puts death like intimately close, because every moment, like the present moment is already dead, because you can only experience like it arises and passes in the same moment. It's already dead. The death is on like here, like death is intimately close at all times, and it's been a lot more present in my experience. And there's a level of gratitude that comes with that for life, and like this like feeling of beauty for every moment that passes and every person I interact with. And it also kind of recolors the way that I do emotional work, because I think of grief as the other side of love. But then the more that I sit with grief, the differentiation between grief and love is like slowly melting away. Where I think about the times I've healed, the times I've healed has been the times I've let go, the times I've grieved apart, times I've seen apart for the love that it is. The moment that I let that love flow, I start crying, and then that part changes. That part is honored, that part is grieved, and then it's allowed to move on. So then I think about like all the parts in me that are holding on. They're holding on because the love hasn't been felt for that part, or the grief hasn't been felt. The part has not been honored. The part has not been allowed to die. So it feels like a lot of this emotional work is like honoring, grieving the life that we've lived so far, to truly love what was, and to allow it to pass, to allow it to change, to allow it to let go. And yeah, that's like, that's been the reframe and the experience for the past few days. And another thing that's been coming up is the things I tied to love are also tied to grief. So that's another reason it feels very similar. So there's a part of me that viewed punishment as love. It was very quite intertwined, and I was noticing myself punishing myself in the grief. Like I wasn't eating, I was doing things that was basically just hurting me, and I didn't know what I was doing. But I was like talking with someone who was holding space for me to grieve, and they were asking me a question that's like, oh, how is, because I was saying like I'm not honoring the grief because I'm punishing myself, and then he asked me, how is the punishment not also honoring the grief? And it hit me because the part of me that's punishing myself views the punishing myself as honoring the grief. It's like, oh, you need to suffer to prove that the love was real, to prove that like the grief, but it's not actually working. It's like this like misunderstanding of it, and being able to see that clearly, it's also changing my perspective in the past of, oh, I punished myself to love myself, and it doesn't work. And then I punish myself to grieve. That also doesn't work, but it is also an attempt to honor what was loved. and to grieve. But the way grief moves is not that. It's all these emotions that can all be really pleasant. Like all the anger can be extremely pleasant. All the crying can be extremely pleasant. All the even the disgust can be like pretty pleasant because it adds so much spaciousness to my experience. It's like a pleasure to all of it. So it truly does feel unresisted when it's just flowing and it's not a rock in my stomach or my heart, as if a celebration for the love that I had for my cat. But it gets twisted, and the twist is the same twist as the twist I have for love. So there's like this like intertwining between love and grief that has become more intimately clear in the process of grieving.
That makes me. So I just left Earth Dance, which I was out for 6 weeks, and it rocked. And I was saying bye to my friends. We did our final kitchen clean together, and I was playing really happy music, and then I played a really sad song, Leaving on a Jet Plane, if you know that song. And we were just like all hugging and crying. And it's interesting to me. So like when I am feeling heartbreak or grief that fluidly, that it's like making me cry, that's honestly like possibly my favorite feeling. I'm like, this fucking rocks. I'm like, this is so sick. And it feels like maybe the flip side, like your resistance is like punishing yourself, and my resistance is like, this is so good. How can I expand it or make sure it stays? Because, for like 3 or 5 minutes, I was crying and it was just like perfect. And then it was like going down a little bit. And I was like, how do I get it to stay? Like, I need to play another sad song. Like, what song do I play? Like, and it was hard for me to be with the constriction.
It's like
around.
You have to grieve the grief. Fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, that checks out. And that's a little bit what happened. But then also I just got in the car, and once I was driving away, then I cried more, and that rocked too. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of grief in me, but also I feel like a lot of people, for not just the things that pass, but also all the places that love didn't touch.
Whoa. Grief for the places that love didn't touch. I see that. That's interesting.
Because I'm noticing like the moment I saw like how much the punishment was me punishing myself was me trying to honor love, to honor grief. I could love it, and then I grieved that part of me trying to punish myself.
Yeah.
So it becomes like this pointer to all the places that love didn't touch, is the places that in learning to love, in learning to grieve, in learning to honor those parts, they can finally move on. And honestly, transformation feels like grief work in a lot of ways. But everything feels like grief right now, because it's like, like I see what I am experience.
The other thing that stands out to me is when I feel closer with death, and I think of death kind of positively. When I feel closer with death, there's just like a lot of presence in it, the same way that when I feel closer with grief, there's just a lot of like presence and pleasure, and usually like heightened, you could call that presence, but it's like heightened nowness, heightened awareness, heightened here-ness, and kind of like heightened pleasure or like sensitivity. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm appreciating the quality of gravity that it gives me, because in the past I've had trouble just staying in myself, especially in large groups. And then I went to like an ecstatic dance thing yesterday just to see what it's like. And I'm like feeling heavy as fuck. And I just sat there and people were dancing, people were having a good time. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I don't really care. And I was like looking, smiling, grieving on my own, interacted with no one. And I just walked out when I wanted to, exactly when I wanted to. And the person was asking, like the desk attendant was asking me questions. And all my answers felt so like direct and simple. Like, it's like, oh. And I felt like I didn't leave myself at all in this like massive group. And that felt heavy and like, quite welcomed in just like that experience of it.
So, anything else here for you, sir?
No. Let me go back to you. What's coming up? What are you excited to? What's your edge? What's your growth edge?
What's my edge? Fuck off. My edge. Wow. I have to grow. I have to try. I have to work. I have to try to grow. That's how edge makes me feel. What's my edge?
I was more so thinking edge because I'm reading The Wild Edge of Sorrow.
Can I actually pass on this one? Because I'm like edge is, I can't handle edge right now. I need a new question.
Mm. Well, you're going to summer camp. What do you think is going to change for you in that process, and what is changing for you?
Oh, I'm gonna meet my wife, so that's pretty cool. Looking forward to that.
There's a lot of girls there.
So that's gonna be sick. Oh, that's pretty much it. I mean, but that's a pretty big deal. Now, I don't know what it's gonna be like. I mean, I have so many things I've done. I like being a camp counselor, but I haven't been like a straight camp counselor like this for like 6 years, since I was like 19.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious to see like maybe things I loved to do in the past. Like I used to love to just like hang out and play board games with my campers, like so much. And maybe now I'll be like, I cannot fucking stand this. Like I'm curious about how we'll feel good to show up with kids when I'm like living at a summer camp. I'm also curious to see, parts of me still feel. I went to this high school spike ball tournament with my little brother like 3 years ago or 4 years ago. So I was like 21. And I was like, oh, I'm 21. Like that's not that different from 18. And then I got there and I was like, oh my God, high schoolers are children. Holy shit. And so I'm like, oh, like the other camp counselors are going to be like 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Like, not that different from me. But I'm probably going to pull up and be like, oh my God, you guys are children. So I'm interested to see that too, because I've spent most of my time with people older than me since I've been 22 since I've graduated college.
Same.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that will be really interesting. And I'm also interested to see like it's kind of how do I want to show up, but it's like how do I want to contribute? Because I know so much about the things we've been talking about on this podcast and stuff related to it. But that doesn't mean I pull up and I'm like, we're doing a grief ritual, everybody.
That's crazy.
As not the vibe. And at the very least, that's not how I want to contribute. Something I'm interested in. I want to I want to run a pillow fight activity. I'm all about the roughhousing. That's the one I feel good about. But it's kind of like, yeah, how do I not want to contribute without like shoving this shit down? Well, embodying this shit, but not like shoving it down anyone's throat. How do I want to share myself? Yeah, and it's really like how do I want to show up? And then another piece of that is like, how can I basically voice my feelings of obligation and not act out of obligation? Because I mean, I'm going to be in a super safe, accommodating, understanding environment. And so, like at Earth Dance, if I'm acting out of obligation, like that is almost certainly me oppressing myself and not anyone there oppressing me. So it's just like, how can I feel that and how can I voice it and how can I let go of that? You know, it's like whatever they put me on.
That seems pretty big.
Yeah.
Big growth edge.
Growth edge.
Question. The question.
I'm gonna rip growth edge a new one. I want to toss this in the mix on growth edge, like something I've been seeing in the last 3 days, right? So we talk about the helplessness, wants changing, grief. And we had a disagreement about this too. Okay. So here's the tweet version. Some people do the scary thing because it's scary. I don't want to fucking do that. I want to do what I want to do. And I want to do it even if it happens to be scary. I'm not interested in doing scary things because they're scary. So it's like, for growth, it's like, I'm not interested in doing things because they make me grow. I'm interested in doing what I want to do. It turns out those things very often happen to make me grow. But it's about doing what I want to do. So that's like, and I feel like my embodiment of that is just shifting so that like the art of accomplishment or the emotional work is, you know, you could say more want over should, more connection over perfection, more enjoy over manage, but it's like, oh, am I going to go process, like, I'm feeling helplessness. I'm going to go process it to get the freedom versus like, oh, what do I want? It's like, oh, I just want to feel the helplessness. Like that would just feel good to me right now. And they're so different.
Yeah. For me, like, I don't think I don't like, even when we had the argument, I don't think we disagreed. Because it was just
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'm just like, when I say growth edge also, it's like, what do I want? And what's the edge that will lead me to?
Yeah. I totally think like I'm projecting onto those things.
Yeah.
And I think I'm from a culture that very often is actually saying like, how do I push myself so that I improve? And I'm like, how do I develop higher agency? And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna kill you. Yeah.
Now, what would it feel like if I asked, like, what's the edge your wants will take you to? Because I feel like that's
nice. Thank you. Thank you for translating it for Harry's psyche. It's a beautiful translation. I do think like romance definitely comes up. And also like navigating that sensitively, like being around lots of people of different ages. And also there's like, oh yeah. Yeah. Like oh man. Like basically like I can feel how like my gut or like the stroller, like I can feel how like my gut is gonna bring me into romantic situations and my head's gonna be like freaking out and my gut's gonna be like, I got you. There's no way you can mess this up.
Oh,
Like it won't even be like me doing it. Like it'll be like me watching it happen and like my gut driving me. And I'm gonna be like, Jesus Christ. Um, so that's the edge. That's the edge.
that was beautifully said.
Thanks. Yeah, I had one of those last week. I think I might have talked about it on the podcast where I was just like talking to this really pretty girl and like just having a great authentic conversation with her. And I was like, my brain was like, how is this happening? Like I'm fully being myself and like in deep connection, talking about the things I most want to talk about with this like really pretty girl who I'm attracted to, who I just met. Like, and I'm not like trying to like grab her or get her or like win her. Like, what the fuck? And even like as I'm thinking that, it's just like still happening. I'm like, it's just happening. Like, what the fuck? Yeah. So it makes me think like another edge is like, right, I have these questions like, how do I want to show up? And then like, I'm just gonna get to watch myself show up how I want to show up and be like, what the fuck? How's this
Yeah.
guy so locked in?
This reminds me of like me setting that boundary with my dad.
Mm.
It's like, oh shit, I'm pulling my dad aside. What the fuck is happening?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
shit, I just drew a boundary with my dad. How did that happen? What the fuck? How did I say that? This guy is so empowered. Who is this guy?
And it makes me think like there's this model I have that's like there's the literally million things I know how to do so well and intuitively. Walk, breathe, speak English, blah 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 blah, play music, blah 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 blah. A million like eat, whatever. A million things, blink. And
Read.
I don't have to think about like any of them. And once you like get your new emotional work relational skill, like you pulling your dad aside and setting that boundary, it actually becomes that. And like 90% of the thought cycles are spent on like trying to get you're at like a million and like 90% of the thought cycles are trying to get you to a million plus one. And it's like, dude, we're at a million. Like we're at a million and you're freaking out about trying to say that to your dad in a way that makes him 1% less likely to get triggered. And it's like you're actually killing a million things and you're just anxious about this one that like no one else can even notice. Um, so yeah, it's kind of like that, like getting to see the new 1,000 things that I learned but forgot I learned and be like, holy shit. But my brain will still be freaking out about plus one.
Yeah, cool. Sounds relatable.
Yeah, cool. Anything else here for you? Let me see what I want to ask. I have the stupidest question ever, which is like, that's not true. My question is, where did you come from? And I can explain, but I'll just leave it there for now.
It reminds me of like the who am I question, where every answer is all the answers are right, but there's like one answer in the moment, and every moment has an answer.
Mm,
Like the answer that feels most like from a broken world is what comes up.
Man.
Yeah.
What I immediately have a thought, but first I want to know what when I say what's the question? It's like a world that's broken that was broken in what way?
Hmm. In all the ways it misunderstood. So what already is. It's like, oh, I think about all the suffering that I've experienced in my life, and even like how little suffering there is in the death of my cat, how much celebration there is in just grieving for the past few days. And I remember saying in the last question, like, there's a form of grief that is for all the parts of us that like weren't touched by love. But love is like everywhere and everything. So how fucked up and broken the world is that the love couldn't touch so many parts of so many people. So I remember asking, who am I? Like a few days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, or like, who am I and what am I doing here? Or something along those lines. And when I asked my heart that question, the answer that came up was a broken-hearted boy learning to feel the love or something. And there's an experience of that, of like in the from a broken, like, where do I come from a broken world, but then seeing how not broken the world is, how like beautiful all of it is, like every moment, everything. um yeah, the experience of grief is that it never ends, and then there's like a truth to it as well. It's like, yeah, every moment is dead. It's passing, it's gone. And there's like grief in that, and there's a grief in moving through that. But in the act of actually grieving it and actually honoring what passes, life just becomes so precious. And it's like, to be fully alive is to fully embrace death. It's another way to say that. And when I'm reading about like the wild edge of sorrow, like the whole book is about how every one of us has a relationship with sorrow and grief and love and death, and that relationship evolves over time. And like any relationship, and it's like, when you work on the relationship, when you want to work on the relationship, it changes for the better. And then with grief, it brings with it so many gifts. And I think like gratitude is one thing that it brings consistently. Yeah. So where do I come from? From a broken world that didn't know grief existed.
Ah, damn. I was just right before the podcast, I was looking for stuff to pack for camp in my parents' basement, and I found the box labeled Harry's Mementos.
Oh,
So it had like my blanket as a kid there. I hadn't seen this. I've seen one of those boxes, but this is the one I didn't see. So it had literally hair from my first haircut, which is blonde as fuck. It literally had some of my baby teeth. I didn't open the envelope. Had a little thing. it said it said something like, "Hi, mom and dad. If it said, hi, mom and dad. I swallowed my tooth at lunch. Do I still get money if I swallowed my tooth?"
oh,
And I was just looking through that shit, and then I found a bunch of my writing from second grade when I was 7. That was interesting. I honestly want to ask ChatGPT about it because I don't really know where 7-year-olds are supposed to be at developmentally. But the thing I saw and or projected onto it was like dissociation, winning and losing, and just like mutedness, like emotional mutedness. Because just like everything I wrote was either like, this is what happened in the sports game, or like, this is precisely what we did. and then and then we watched TV, and then we went to the pool, and then we went to sleep. I'm like, maybe that's just how 7-year-olds write. But I mean, even like there's one that was like, it was pretty short, but it's like, I was at my friend's house. My friend's parents dropped me off at home. My parents weren't home. I cried for 5 minutes. Then my parents came home.
Oh my God, that's awful. That's so sad.
Yeah, but I was like, you like can't, it's so objective. You like can't feel any of them. You can only feel dissociation through it. But the reason I bring that up is feeling like coming from a broken world. And though I think the one that probably got me most, it was like, well, what are your hobbies? And it was like soccer, TV, basketball, and the computer. And I was like, damn. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, your hobbies are like dissociation and like domination or being dominated. And I feel like there's also something I read of like, oh yeah, that one too. This one was from 6th grade. It's like, what are your 3 favorite songs? The soundtrack to your life. And it was Harder, Better. I mean, banger songs, but it's Harder, Better, Faster by Daft Punk, The Eye of the Tiger, and The Distance by Cake, which are all like, I'm going to go as hard as fucking possible forever, and no one will ever beat me. Which, like, I would say is the endurance personality pattern. If anyone knows the 5 personality patterns, you can look that up. It's pretty cool. And I was just like, seeing that really made me appreciate, like, I was 7 and 11. Like, that's pretty much all conditioning up to that point.
Yeah.
I mean, in some sense, everything's conditioning, but that's pretty much all conditioning. I'm like, damn, that is fucking conditioning. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember having a conversation with our friend Pablo, and he's like 10 years older than me. So I was like, damn, you're a decade older than me. And he replied, yeah, before you were even born, I was assigned the homework for the rest of my life. And he was talking about like how fucked his childhood was, and how like like from the age of 0 to 8 is when most of your trauma or most of your programming is installed.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah. I'm also like grateful for being able to grieve, being able to shudder, being able to be impacted in this way.
Yeah.
I wasn't like when I was 21, I was definitely not able to grieve. Like that was not an experience I had. Like an extremely heady boy. And there's a book called Iron John that a friend recommended to me. It's about masculinity. We'll see how good it is. I'm just listening to it. But the 3rd chapter is called like The Road of Ashes, Descent, and Grief. And it's about how like to be a true man, like you need to learn how to shudder. Because if you don't, then there is a cruelty to you. It's like boys, when they're young, lose their access to their emotions, and their body goes numb from the neck to the pelvic, and they kill ants and they torture animals because they think it's fun and funny, and it's a form of dominating. It's a form of, in a way, like losing your humanity. And it talks about how masculinity is a very human experience. Like you have to let go of your specialness to be grounded in your essence. And there is a descent that's required for that. A descent into grief, a descent into just like all the suffering that's there in the world that wants to be seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, the more like enlightenment work, it's like when I was talking to Daniel Thorson, he mentioned, I was talking about the helplessness of seeing other people suffer and how little or anything I could do about it because it's not my job and it's not my path and it's not my responsibility, and it's actually like if I did help, like it would be fucking them over because I would be saving them from their rock bottom. And he said, yeah, there's an ocean of helplessness, and you can hear the crying children and the babies and all those people around you. And it's not your job because you just got to be friends with them and hang out. But there is an ocean of helplessness to feel and an ocean of grief for all the suffering that there is in the world. And I was like, yep. And that's okay.
Brutal.
Brutal. Yeah.
And you just gotta sit there and be friends with the people drowning.
Yeah, dude. I don't know if you have that experience because, like, I feel like my experience is now like pretty, like, even with the grief, it's extremely peaceful, unless like my mind is spinning on something. Like, it's like pretty peaceful, and there's like a lot of just chill. But I don't know. Like, I remember when I hang out with like people who don't do any of this work, there's just a lot of anxiety and depression in their system, which is okay. But I was like, there's a helplessness. There used to be more helplessness to it, but there's like a little less helplessness. But there's still like a, aw.
Yeah. I'm interested to see like what that's like when I go to summer camp, because like being at Earth Dance, like everyone's into some form of this work.
Yeah.
And you know, people are still stuck in their own ways. And I feel like for me, it used to be like judging everyone for their stuckness. And like, oh my God, there's all this stuckness and it's disgusting. And everyone's traumatized. They don't even know it. But now it's just like, now it's just like, there's not like this mass totality feeling of it for me. Not alive for me. But when I come into contact with one person who's really fucking stuck, it is like, fuck, like, I can't help you. Like, I fucking wish I could help you, and I can't.
Yeah. That's my experience as well. It's like every time I encounter someone, and it's like, fuck. And then it's also like most other people, I don't know, it's surprising how it shows up for some. Like, it's like this person can't make eye contact to save their life and is being hyper caretaker and is talking about how I'm going to judge them for a million things. And it's like, oh my God, I don't know what your existence is like, but like, oh my God. Oh my God. And all I could do is like smile and like love you and not say nothing else.
Yeah, and you saying I don't know what your existence is like, and in this book, one of my favorite books ever, really highly recommend it if you're interested in like a hyper intellectual version of what me and Samek are talking about in human development and sociology stuff. The Listening Society, banger. And his model of human development, one of his parts of human development is depth. Well, okay, so first there's state, and state is just like 1 to 13 or whatever, and 1 is like hell, like it feels like your experience and psyche is being ripped apart, and 13 is like, or 11, whatever it is like sainthood and like absolute bliss and like unity, etc. And then, you know, like 7 is like things are pretty good, but there's like a bunch of small faults, and 8 is like, I'm fucking vibing, like things are good, like things are solid. And depth, so that's state. And then depth is like the range of states that you've integrated. So it's like, have you spent a significant portion of your life at like 4, which, you know, I don't remember exactly what it is, but 4 is like this, like probably you're getting to like, I don't want to exist at like 4. Like 4 is like fucking awful, or 3. And therefore, but also, you know, like 9 or 10, like getting to like bliss and peace and serenity. But what I'm saying is, with depth comes a deeper ability to relate to people who are having that experience. And those states, I would really say, are meta states. They're not like, am I angry or like, am I grieving? Because you can grieve with so much internal connection, and you can grieve and it can be ripping you fucking apart. But yeah, and then that's to say, like, relating to my past self of like, I just like, let me sit with the state. Like, what was it like to be Harry when I was like 20? And it's like, oh God.
Oh my God. It feels like torture when you just said that. I'm like,
Yeah. And so then there's like, what is it like right now? And it's like, okay, so I'm like talking to 20-year-old Harry, and like part of me wants to tell him how good this is. And it's like, oh, dude, like, it's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of impossible to conceive from your current state.
yeah.
The quality of experience, I really like how they define states, but you could say like levels of connection. Just the quality of experience, or you could say the quality of consciousness is so fucking different that yeah, you can't it's really fucking hard to explain. I mean, there's even like the hot and cold paradox thing, which is like when you're fucking hot, you're like, I would take being freezing cold over this any fucking second. And like vice versa.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine a state you're not in, even when it's hot, as simple as hot and cold. It's so fucking hard to imagine a state you're not in when it's like your entire fucking reality. Yeah.
As we were talking about this, like, and with the beginning, I noticed like this like slight squirminess in my body. And then immediately it was like, oh, there's helplessness even in talking about this that I'm not. So right now I'm feeling the helplessness in it. But I wouldn't have noticed it that quickly if I didn't have the grief. Because it felt like when I was squirming, the heaviness was pulling me down. Okay, there's helplessness here. So that was an interesting experience that happened just now, which kind of blew my mind.
That's cool. That's one more thing I noticed in this conversation. For me, I hear what you're saying of grief pulling you into yourself. For me, helplessness, like let me feel the grief. Like grief just like, for me, grief just like hugs me into myself. Just like get the fuck over here. And it's just like we're here. Helplessness. Helplessness is like, I'm gonna fucking yank your hair over here, like you're, get in your fucking place, bro. Get in your fucking place. I'm gonna hold you down in your fucking place. Yeah.
Well, for me, laughing is hard right now because I immediately start crying as well.
Ooh. Whoa.
Because it like does that. It moves the same part of me.
Like something in your gut.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Oh. Okay. Anything else there? I'm
but very
podcast. Very present. Anything else there? I'm all good.
I'm also all good.
Sweet.
This is my new stress ball. So I've been squeezing it. It's great. It's a little heart for the people just doing audio. Yeah.
Take us out, sir.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for listening to the 15th episode of the Attunement Podcast. We'll continue doing this for as long as we enjoy it.
That's our promise to you. It was nice to be with you all today. Death is a reality, and we only have so many more podcasts and so much more time to be together. I love all of you. Hope you have a good week.
I love you all.
Goodbye.
Great one.